Do you train to failure? Do you need to train to failure for muscle growth? And are you failing in the way that you think you are? You see, there's a big difference between true muscular failure and what people call failing, and that changes how your muscles are built. There's a debate out there that says you need to train to absolute muscular failure every single set or the set doesn't count. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, there's people who are saying that training to failure is simply junk volume and you don't need it at all. As with most things, the truth lies somewhere in between. And spoiler alert, I'm going to let you know that I believe that closer to muscular failure is better. I think that most people should train very close to muscular failure on most lifts. But there's a lot of caveats there, and it shouldn't always be to absolute failure. I'm going to break failure into 3 separate categories. The first one is absolute muscular failure. The second one is going to be technical failure. And the third one is mental failure. True muscular failure is when you absolutely are incapable of moving the weight further. Even with perfect intent, even with perfect form, even with perfect motivation, you cannot get another rep. Technical failure is when you might have just enough juice to get one more rep, but you twitch weird, or your form breaks down just a little bit, or anything else happens technically and it causes you to fail. Your muscles could have done it in more optimal movement, but something broke down which caused you to fail. And the third type of failure, which I believe to be the most common type of failure to a detriment, mental failure. This is where your muscles are burning or hurting so bad that you don't want to do another rep, or you just think that you can't do another rep even though your muscles could. So you're pushing another rep and you think to yourself, if I go down, I'm probably not coming back up. And so you stop. But the muscle could have given more. That is mental failure. And I want to emphasize that the most common types of failure are technical failure and mental failure. Mental failure being the most common one in my opinion. Why does mental failure happen first? Look, all of us are different. All of us have different pain tolerances, but no matter who you are, if you've lifted, you have hit mental failure and stopped lifting at one point or another. And it happens to even the most mentally tough people. No matter how tough you get, and even if you begin to enjoy difficult things, at one point, you don't enjoy difficult things any longer. And so much is going on during a lift that if you're just pushing and your grip slips, for example, or you feel a little twinge in your foot, even though you're doing a bench press, something just clicks in your brain that says something is wrong, you're much more likely to have mental failure than if you hadn't had that in the first place. And it happens to everybody. The key thing here is that mental failure is not muscular failure. You see, muscle growth is driven by high effort and high motor recruitment. If you can easily bench press 135 pounds and that's what you do, your body isn't given a reason to get stronger. But if you give it all of your effort and then you fail, your body thinks, okay, we can't do something that we just tried to do. We better get stronger. However, that being said, you do not need absolute muscle failure on every single lift to grow muscle. You don't even need absolute muscle failure on any lift. If you are getting close to that muscular failure, your body will think, okay, that was a close call. We better build muscle. But I strongly recommend getting as close to muscle failure as you can on all the lifts that are safe to do so. If you're lifting and you have 3 or 4 reps in reserve, it's probably not as optimal to grow muscle that way as if you were only 1 rep shy of failure, or even 2 reps can be very effective. In fact, being 1 or 2 reps shy of failure in some studies is even better than muscular failure, because some studies show that you'll have better recovery, less mental fatigue, which will keep you going for that day or week to week. So if you're consistently trained to where you will probably fail on the next rep, you're probably doing it right. However, that is usually further than people think it is. And that's why I want to emphasize finding out what exactly muscle failure is. I think it's very important for everyone to get there, to truly fail. So when does training to muscular failure not make sense? Simply put, anytime it is dangerous to do so. do not try to train to muscular failure. Another good example, but completely different example of when you should not train to failure is something like on an RDL. This is the type of lift of a little bit of technical breakdown can cause you an injury. So when I'm training RDLs, I'll often leave 3 or even 4 reps shy of failure just to make sure that I don't hurt my back, because when I do an RDL wrong, it hurts for weeks, and we don't want any of that, because that is going to, in the long run, really stint our muscle growth, because we're not going to be able to keep lifting like we should be. Like I said, simply put, when it's not safe to do so, don't train to muscular failure. However, as long as it's safe to do so, you go right ahead and try to get as close to muscular failure as possible. Even in the bench press, there's nothing like just knowing that you gave every single bit of effort you have. Your friend had to help you get that very last rep because you truly failed. You can walk around the rest of that day knowing, dang, that was a good workout, and I know that my muscles were stimulated. So how do you know if you're mentally failing, technically failing, or truly hitting muscular failure? It is actually tricky, and it comes with some nuance. But my best recommendation is if you never actually fail, you're not gonna know what it really feels like. And the more that you actually fail, the more you're going to know when you're close to failing. As with all things, weightlifting takes practice and experience. The more you do it, the better you're going to get, and the easier of a time you're going to know if you're getting to muscular failure or close to. My final takeaway is to say that training to failure really isn't magic. It's the effort that creates the magic. Sure, if you want optimal muscle growth, get as close to failure as you can every single set. Just know that if your effort is increasing week to week and you're getting 1 more rep than you did last week, or you're getting a little bit more weight than you did last week, that muscular failure is going to come naturally. The progressive overload is even more important. People, we don't have to annihilate ourselves in the gym every single set, but high effort does count. And the key here is that most people do need to push themselves harder than they think they do, especially beginners. And so to break out of that beginner phase, I definitely recommend hit actual muscle failure, where you give it every single bit of effort you have, but the weight just does not go up. As long as you're safe, of course. Thank you for watching. I hope your next lift is killer and better than you've ever had before.